Welcome to Yoga Friends. I'm here with my wonderful friend Judy. Judy is a fellow teacher. Also a student and also works the front desk. So you're the first person that I've had with me so far that's done all three of them. So thanks so much for being with me.
Of course.
Yeah. So the first question I ask pretty much everyone is, how did you get into yoga?
I started actually in college, so it was 1990. My roommate and I just saw that we were at Ohio State, and they had the basement of the commons next door to our dorm had offered a class, and we said, "Hey, let's try it." And so we went to that, and then I was hooked. We started going really regularly, and it just stuck with me
Yeah.
for life.
And I know it's been a while, but do you recall at all like what those first classes were
I
like?
wish I could remember, but not really. I know I didn't have any equipment of my own, so whatever they had there in the basement of the commons is what we used. It was probably thick exercise mats and yin music, if I had to
Yeah.
guess.
Whenever I see someone come into the studio with one of those thick mats, I think to myself, yeah, they're gonna learn,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
right. That's why I always say, if I could give one piece of unsolicited advice, just get a good mat.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, I would agree. And then how long did you do yoga before you became a teacher?
I probably practiced probably a good 20 years before I had time to take training.
Okay, so you were raising kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Easy.
all of your kids are into fitness
Yes.
and your husband's into fitness.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a wonderful thing to hand down to your kids. But I know one of your kids is in the Marines, and the other one played hockey and all this. And I
Yeah.
know your daughter-in-law comes to the studio and all
Yeah.
this. So, I mean,
And my daughter's very consistent with her studio in Columbus.
yeah, no,
So it's nice to
that's
pass it on.
yeah, no, I think that's one of the best things you could pass on to your kids. It's wonderful. Do any of your kids do yoga yet? I mean, other than your your
Yeah,
daughter-in-law,
so my daughter does in Columbus,
okay.
and my daughter-in-law, when she can, she does. All three of my boys, I used to work with their teams when they played sports, but they don't really do it on their own. They only if they're told.
Right, okay. Yeah, I don't know that a lot of boys especially have an attitude of like, pedal to the metal when it comes to fitness. And I don't know if a lot of boys really realize like the benefits of yoga or how hard it is. Every once in a while you'll get a young man in the studio. But I think, boys, they think of like weight training and running and things like that and don't really realize like how hard and beneficial yoga can be.
Yeah. Well, I always get a phone call when they have a sore muscle.
Oh yeah, okay.
What do I do, Mom?
Yeah. So what made you decide to get into teaching?
Really, the longer I stuck with yoga, the more I love it. And I really, truly want everyone to love it as much as I do. I really want to just kind of spread the word and do what I can to make other people love it as much as I do.
Yeah, yeah, me too. They say giving is one of the best things that a person can do for themselves mentally. And I think that that's what most yoga teachers look at it as. I mean, no one's becoming rich, becoming a
Right.
yoga teacher unless you own a studio. And even then, I'm sure you're not becoming rich. So I'm sure you've learned some things along the way. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
learn from everyone you meet.
And that's why I got into it because I knew that I would have to study a lot to know what I'm talking about because we do these messages for people who've never done yoga before. We do messages before each class and, you know, kind of like words of wisdom. And, yeah, you kind of want to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
would spend a lot of time on those. And, you would be there on Wednesdays before the class that I used to teach. And oftentimes, sometimes I feel kind of bad because oftentimes I would be pretty quiet because I'm spending so much time like thinking about what I'm going to talk about. But it pays off because not everyone is there to hear a message, but for the people who are, it really works out well for them.
Yeah.
And so I love that part of it too, like sharing the wisdom that I've built up over
Well,
time.
and I loved yours. Yours were always so well researched and thought out, and I feel like for me, I kind of will draw from like, well, I was driving and this made me think of yoga. And mine
You,
are a little more shallow,
well, I wouldn't
but
say
you figure
shallow.
out how
They're,
to tie it in.
yeah, they're experiential. Like they're,
Yeah.
I think most yoga teachers do them like you do them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, mine, I thought from the beginning, I thought I want to like try to do almost like a mini sermon, but not,
Hmm.
and, you know, so, the first classes that I taught, like the first probably 4 or 5 classes that I taught, I probably spent about 20 hours on them.
Wow.
Yeah. And then over time, it got less and less.
Hmm.
By my 10th class, I was probably spending 2 hours, but it was still, that's a
Hmm.
long time to spend on a class.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'll spend 15 minutes, if that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of my, my classes. It takes me 2 minutes to put together a class. I have a bunch of classes saved, but even if I
Hmm.
didn't, it'd take me about 2 minutes. I have a ton of playlists saved. So for me, it's all about the message. And at this point, I can take some thoughts and put them together pretty well, but I just have to
Hmm.
think about it for like 15 minutes. And then I'll
Yeah.
come into the studio and be thinking about it there before class. But
Hmm.
yeah, so
Well, it always lands very well.
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So here we are in a church, in this church, United Methodist Church of Plymouth. These people here are lovely because I was looking for a place to do these interviews, and they give me such a good deal, and they've been so nice and so kind and so cool. But one thing I don't hear people talk about nowadays is Christianity. Like when we were young, you would hear about it all the time. Pretty much everyone was a Christian in one way or another, either a Protestant or a Catholic.
Hmm.
And but nowadays, it's almost like I kind of look at it nowadays as almost like how people look at smoking cigarettes. Like a lot of people kind of just hide it. I'm not saying everyone does, but some
That's
people do.
funny.
They just don't talk about it because
Hmm.
it gets a bad rap. But I know that you're a Catholic,
Hmm.
okay, and I think we may have talked about this before, but people who get disenchanted um, with Catholicism or with any type of church, I think that they have the impression that if you see Christians that are corrupt or do wrong things, then that says something about Jesus. But
Hmm.
I think you and I both agree that that's totally like not
Hmm.
true.
Right.
A person can believe in Jesus or have a relationship with Jesus and not and not be thrilled with these people in church that do
Right.
the rotten things or
The
take
human
advantage of
side.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Catholics get a bad rap, but really, to be fair, every Christian has issues.
Sure. I'm sure. Every human genre of anything has there's issues somewhere.
Yeah, and I think we both agree too that a lot of there's all these different religions and stuff, but a lot of them are kind of the same. Really, when you get down to the bottom of
Hmm.
it, a lot of them are very much alike.
Yes.
Yeah, I
They all
believe.
have the same end goal,
Yeah,
just different ideas how to get there.
yeah, and I think politically speaking,
Hmm.
most people want the same things too.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we,
But that takes time to come around. I feel like when I was younger, I would be a little more hot headed about all of that. And now I kind of, you live, you learn, you talk to people, and we're all on the same page.
yeah,
We really are.
yeah. Yeah, it takes a while because I think a lot of it is actually the ego.
Hmm.
And I've been kind of studying the ego. I'm certainly not an expert on it, but I find it kind of fascinating. From what I know about the ego, the ego is not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it can become bad if we become like overcome by it. From what I know, the ego is the I, and
Hmm.
it's what basically separates us from other people, and it causes us to protect ourselves.
Hmm.
And so I think this is one of the reasons why sometimes when you get into what people say, like you have a get together, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever, and people say no politics or religion because it goes straight to a person's ego.
Yes.
It's like a person feels like if you some people, if you disagree with them, not some, but a lot of people, maybe most,
Yeah.
they feel like it's a personal attack.
Right.
And
Because in a way, you're attacking their moral compass in a way, but not really, but people will take it that way. This speaks to my morality and where my morals and values come from, and you're attacking that.
Yeah. So do you think that that's the ego basically, or have you ever really thought much about the ego?
I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but that makes sense. I think it's just, I think it's more people have this view of how to get from A to B, and sometimes it's hard to see that there might be another, just like when you're doing navigation, there might be another path to get there. It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
We're all going the same place.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think yeah, I think see, I feel like most people deep down inside would find it more profitable to just be open-minded with
Hmm.
someone. But yeah, it's hard. I think that there's a fear of someone thinking that we're less than what we are, a fear of someone
Hmm.
thinking we're incompetent or that we don't think things through. And
Hmm.
I think we can become insulted that way. But
Sure.
the friendliest, coolest, and most mature people that I've known are open minded.
Hmm.
No
I
matter
agree.
what, it could be someone who their entire life has studied Christianity or, pick a thing, a certain politics or whatever, and they will still listen to anyone.
Hmm.
And those are like the coolest, best people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been going to
I'm
church your whole
trying.
life.
Yes. Yes. I feel like it's a gift my parents gave me. You don't appreciate until you get older, but, raising me, in that way. And I got to go to Catholic school all the way through high school anyway. And then I went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
We were able to send two of our kids to Catholic school. Two of them weren't interested, but the other,
Oh, so they just
well,
declined.
my oldest son didn't want to. Then my daughter didn't really have an option just
Okay.
because of her own situation. And
Uh,
then my younger two did. They went to Catholic Central.
okay, so your son who didn't want to go, did he?
His
What?
buddies were all going to
I
South
got you. Yeah.
Lyon.
Well, that's, I mean, when you're that age, that's a
Yeah,
good excuse.
yeah,
Yeah, I would have loved to go to CC when I was a
yeah.
teenager. I mean, I would have really loved it.
Mhm.
I lived by divine child. But, for people who might see this in other parts of the country, here in southeastern Michigan, the Catholic schools are kind of few and far between. So someone might drive their kid 10 miles to
Mhm.
school until they can drive
Go
themselves
farther. Yeah,
or farther. Yeah.
yeah,
And it can be a really long drive. But where you grew up at, there you had a lot of smaller
hmm,
schools.
yeah. We were right in Columbus, and there was a little network of high schools. I can't remember how many there were, 5 to 7 maybe within the diocese, and all around the same size. They were kind of small,
Yeah.
400 to 600 people about.
Yeah.
So not too big for a high school.
Yeah. Because out here, they're huge and there's
Yeah,
often a waiting list, right?
yeah.
But over there, you have them, they're closer and
Hmm.
yeah. And it just seems to make sense. I'm kind of
Yeah.
not sure why they don't do that more often. Yeah. And I also found it interesting that most of the Protestants I've known in my life seem a lot more serious. Or at least maybe I don't know if rigid is the right word. That's probably not fair to say rigid, but they're very like serious about their Christianity. Where a lot of the
Hmm.
Catholics I met are more laid back. You do have Catholics that are serious about it, but a lot
Hmm.
of them are more like laid back. A lot of the
Hmm.
Catholics I knew growing up didn't read the Bible or anything, and a lot of the Protestants I know do. But it's interesting that the Protestant schools are tiny around here,
Yeah,
and then the Catholic schools are huge.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's because um, the Catholics are all one, and the Protestants are all split up into a million
Hmm.
different denominations. So I'll bet you
Yeah,
that's
could be.
why.
Yeah.
So you have yoga
Hmm.
and Christianity,
Hmm.
and I think that's a pretty great combo.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
there are a lot of parallels, I think. They're both very, very grounding. I think they both do lead me to be a little more open minded about things. There are a lot of parallels between the faith and yoga.
yeah, yeah. Let's see what else. What other parallels? They're very it's humbling.
It's
Yeah,
humbling. It's homey and grounding, and
yeah,
it's a community in both ways, or
yeah,
both instances. You kind of get to know the people, and you want to see them and be with them, and that's all part of it too.
yeah. There's something called relational energy, the energy
Hmm.
between people. And I think it's so nice and comforting to know that you have people who, even outside of your family, are like family.
Hmm.
So you have a family that you love, and they seem to be succeeding in life really well. And then you have your yoga family, which I got to tell you are the yoga culture. I talk about this probably in every video, so I know people who watch all these videos are it's probably getting old, but they're really the nicest, sweetest culture of people. Just so like mature and cool and down to earth. When I left my last job, I probably had 30 people who, just gave me the loveliest like messages about what I meant to them, and
Yeah.
it was just so cool. I feel bad for people who don't have that, because some
Yeah.
people grow
Me
up
too.
in families that aren't very supportive. I mean, you can have a family that's intact, but you're not very supportive. People can kind of drag each other down sometimes, and then you don't have these other things. And so there's just like a lot of strife and a lot of, I think with that comes a lot of like resentment and,
And
you know,
loneliness.
yeah, what's that?
And loneliness.
Yeah, and loneliness. Yeah, without really realizing it, even though you're around people, you don't have that connection with them.
Yeah.
So do you feel like did your kids go with you to church all the way through high school?
Yeah.
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 At CC, do they have church service there that they have to go
Yeah.
to? That's Catholic
They have
Central.
regular masses. Yeah.
Yeah.
School masses. They have a daily mass that you can go to every morning, and then they have school masses that they have
That
to
you
go
have
to.
to go
Yeah.
to. How often do they do those? Do you
I believe
remember?
it's right around once a month.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, so that's cool. So you have your husband's a pilot. That must be nice. I mean,
Sometimes.
you're probably sometimes. Well, sometimes because he's gone a lot. Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you do enjoy traveling?
We love to travel. I try to go with him once a month if he's got a fun trip, but
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
try.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I know I've wondered this before. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I've wondered what the depression rate is with pilots, because sometimes people get depressed. I think one of the biggest contributors to depression can often be weather. And just even if it's not cold, like it gets in Michigan, cloudy and everything, but a pilot knows, like, this is just a weather system, right above the clouds
Yeah.
is, the sunshine
Yeah.
and all of that. I just wonder if that ever happens to pilots, if they ever get like seasonal type depression.
Not really. Actually, it's the other way around because, like, always sunny in the office is what what I hear.
Yeah.
They always get that vitamin D and the sun because they
Yeah.
go up and take it in.
Yeah, I've been hearing lately that vitamin D is like the most important thing that you can take, and that the dose that the recommended daily dose is like way lower than what we should be taking.
Yeah.
That's what I've been hearing. Like
Yeah.
I've been upping my vitamin D.
Me too.
Yeah, and so we talked about this before,
Yeah.
but creatine.
Yeah.
So creatine is something that when I was young was kind of like guys did when they were like lifting weights and stuff. I guess from what I knew back then is it would kind of open up your cells to intake more water, and so because of that, your cells might repair themselves faster. And so nowadays I continue to take creatine because I've heard that there's other benefits, mental. It can help if you're a little bit sleep deprived. I've heard that they say 5 grams, but you can take the people I've heard that were very reputable say like up to 15 grams.
Okay.
I'm not saying that a
Yeah.
person should take that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what I heard. And
Yeah.
so, but you
I'm
have,
taking 5.
okay, yeah.
But
For-
because we talked about it, and I thought I'm going to go look that up, and I'm taking 5.
yeah. Okay. So for women, what are the benefits?
So the reason I started taking it was to start, as we get older, we start to lose muscle tone, and I thought I had read how good that is. But then, like you said, you start getting into it a little bit more, and it's so safe. And so there's so many other benefits for women with as far as brain health, like you said, the sleep issues, cognitive issues, that kind of thing. So there's really no downside. So I've been on it for a few months and feeling pretty good. So
Yeah, good. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've heard other women talk about it too, and it's getting to be kind of a big thing with women. But I just thought I'd bring it up because it's a
Yeah.
natural thing. They find it in like meat and fish and stuff like that, and it's been like studied really to the max
Yeah.
from what I've heard.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I believe it's one of, if not the safest supplement out there.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up soon. Do you have
Okay.
anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's great to talk.
It's great to talk to you too. I
Yeah.
know at the studio we didn't have a ton, even though like I said, I was so into like thinking about my
Yeah.
classes
And I
before
understand
this,
that.
but
Of
it's
course.
nice to just sit down and have a
Yeah.
conversation like this. So thanks
Yeah.
again for
Of
doing this. I
course.
appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Yep.